Prime Minister Andrew Holness will soon roll out greater investment into renewable energy. Welcome to episode 84. Today we're diving into a pretty significant announcement coming out of Jamaica, and our source for this is the Jamaican Observer. We're aiming to not just lay out the energy plan itself, but really try and connect the dots. How does this tie into the country's bigger economic goals and, crucially, those really persistent problems with high energy costs?
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack what's driving this new strategy. What are the pressures? We'll look at what the government has tried before and, maybe most importantly, why this new plan is being framed as a potential profound change. A big deal for, average Jamaicans and especially their manufacturing sector. So yeah, get ready for some insights into how a country really grapples with its energy future, especially when power is just so expensive compared to neighbors.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the main news. Prime Minister Andrew Holness himself announced it. His administration is getting ready to roll out a strategy. The goal, more investment into renewable energy. And he made this announcement at a specific event, the official launch of the MJS Technology Park in Spanish Town. That location itself is interesting, and we'll circle back to that later. But first, the timing. This is happening as the government is really stepping up its economic messaging. There's a general election expected by September. How crucial is that context?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. The timing is definitely not random. Holness is, he's clearly acknowledging and responding to some pretty significant pressure. It's coming from manufacturers. They've been quite loud about this, saying high electricity costs are just, holding back production, holding back growth in Jamaica. And it's worth stressing, Jamaica has been known for having some of the highest energy costs in the region for a long time now. This isn't a sudden issue. It's a deep structural problem impacting competitiveness.
Right, a major huddle. So it makes total sense that Holness is pitching this new energy plan as the next phase in a bigger economic push. He's talking about reducing operating costs, sure, but also about reviving Jamaica's industrial ambitions, which, some say have kind of stalled. He also mentioned other things. His administration feels they've already handled achieving macroeconomic stability, putting in fiscal incentives, creating a stable tax environment. And he specifically brought up security, called it a big issue, that he believes they've dealt with decisively. So the government seems to think the groundwork is laid. But practically speaking, even with those claims, are there maybe still perceptions or realities about things like, say, bureaucracy or ongoing security stuff that might make investors hesitate, even with energy reform?
That's a really important nuance. Look, policy changes on macro stability, taxes, they're vital, absolutely foundational. But yeah, the on-the-ground reality, like how easy it actually is to navigate permits or if there are still localized security worries, that can definitely create friction for businesses. Often you see a gap between a strong policy framework and the day-to-day ease of doing business. However, if we take Holness's framing seriously, that those other pillars are more stable now, well, then energy really does become the absolute focus. It's the logical next step. If you've dealt with stability, taxes, security, then this huge structural disadvantage of high energy costs, it has to be tackled to unlock that larger flow of investments you mentioned. You just can't compete effectively, especially manufacturing, if your power costs are way out of line with your global competitors. It's fundamental.
Okay, and it's fair to say the government has tried some things before on electricity costs, right? It's not like nothing's happened. I remember the reduction in the general consumption tax, the GCT, on electricity bills. And they've invested in things like prepaid meters, trying to cut down on line losses, which were apparently quite high. Plus, there were programs aimed at helping households, especially low-income ones, rewire their homes for better efficiency.
Yeah, those efforts definitely happened. They provided some relief, no doubt. But from the manufacturer's perspective, and this is key, those measures were seen as helpful, yes, but ultimately falling short. They didn't deliver the kind of structural reform needed to make Jamaica truly competitive. That's the core issue. It's like putting bandages on a deeper wound. They eased the pain a bit, maybe stopped some bleeding, but didn't fix the underlying injury. What we're seeing here is that for these really embedded economic problems, like super high energy costs, just tinkering around the edges with tax breaks or efficiency drives, while good, often isn't enough. It's symptom management. So the profound change Holness is talking about now, it suggests something much bigger, a fundamental shift maybe in how Jamaica generates and pays for power, moving away from that expensive, often fossil fuel-based model, which really sets the stage for why this upcoming policy feels different, potentially more comprehensive. It's aiming for an overhaul, not just tweaks.
Right, an overhaul. And that leads us to some really interesting details or maybe warnings about how they plan to accelerate renewable energy. Holness was careful not to give away all the specifics yet, but he did signal the policy aims for a coordinated acceleration. And what really stood out was what he wants to avoid. He specifically said he doesn't want a rapid migration from the national grid into individually supplied energy solutions using renewables. That sounds like a pretty strong caution.
It is a very strong caution, and the reasoning he gave highlights a really critical challenge for lots of countries managing this energy transition, especially developing nations. His point was that if you have this kind of disorganized individual rush off the grid, where basically only those who can afford it, like big companies or wealthy homes, install their own solar or whatever, well, he argued that really would just drive up the unit cost for everyone else.
Okay. So the people left relying on the main grid end up paying more per unit.
Exactly. Think about it. The national grid has huge fixed costs, poles, wires, substations, staff, maintenance. If your biggest, most profitable customers suddenly leave, you still have all those fixed costs, but now they have to be spread across a much smaller customer base. That could really hit residential users, small businesses, and especially low-income families who just don't have the capital for their own systems. They'd be stuck paying potentially higher rates for the same or maybe even less reliable power. So it's this really delicate balancing act. How do you encourage renewables without destabilizing the existing system or making it unfair for those who can't switch immediately? It's like upgrading a highway but letting all the trucks use a free private bypass, leaving only the cars to pay the tolls for the main road upkeep.
That's a really good analogy. And that idea of coordination, of managing the whole system, actually links back perfectly to where Holness made the announcement, the MJS Technology Park. This isn't just some random conference room. It's meant to be a symbol, right? A tangible sign of Jamaica's industrial ambitions being revitalized. It's developed by businessman Michael Spiretti with backing from the Musang Group. And it's on the site of the old Renewable textile factory, a place with real industrial history in Spanish Town. And it's a big project, US $50 million for this redevelopment.
Yeah, and Holness really leaned into that symbolism. He explicitly talked about the government strategy of repurposing idle state assets. Smart move, rather than letting them decay. And crucially, about restoring investor confidence in local manufacturing. His quote was direct: "Jamaica must resuscitate its manufacturing base." He also mentioned the government's choice: either develop assets themselves or make them available to entrepreneurs. MJS Park is a clear example of the second option, and it's significant that it's in Spanish Town, an area he acknowledged has faced incredible negative perceptions, showing it can be transformed. It's the town's only special economic zone, or SEZ, which gives it specific advantages to attract businesses. It's a big site, 65 acres, and already has 7 tenants using about 440,000 square feet. So things are happening there.
And it seems like there's real momentum. We heard that Honeybun, a local manufacturer, is building its most advanced manufacturing facility to date, right there. That's a strong local endorsement. Plus, the developer, Michael Spiretti, announced plans for another huge chunk of space, 300,000 square feet. And apparently, 100,000 of that is already spoken for by an international manufacturer. That's a good sign. He even mentioned plans to revive the nearby railway to help move goods via Port Esquivel. That's thinking of the whole ecosystem, not just the buildings.
Absolutely. It shows that critical link between policy talk and actual physical infrastructure development. You need both. And you mentioned JAMPRO, the Jamaica Promotions Corporation. They're actively helping find more investors for the remaining space. That shows government agencies are backing this vision too. Spiretti described it as purpose-built development from the ground up, and he gave a timeline for the next phase launch in maybe 18 to 22 months. So it feels concrete. It suggests Jamaica isn't just, talking about industrial revival and energy reform, but they're putting down the bricks and mortar and attracting businesses, local and international, to make it happen. It looks like a holistic approach.
So bringing this all together, what's the main takeaway for you listening in? Jamaica's upcoming renewable energy strategy, based on what Prime Minister Holness said and what the Jamaican Observer reported, it seems like it's not just about solar panels or wind turbines. It feels like a really critical piece in a much larger economic puzzle. The goal seems to be boosting manufacturing, attracting investment, and hopefully lowering those crippling energy costs for everyone, from big factories right down to individuals.
Yeah, I think that's right. We've really seen how these long-running problems, like those high energy costs, directly hit a country's ability to compete. It's not abstract. It's real dollars and cents for businesses. And we've also seen how strategically using assets, like turning that old factory site into the MJS Tech Park, can send a powerful signal. It signals confidence, provides the actual space for growth. It seems like a combination of top-down policy change and bottom-up physical development, trying to tackle the problem from multiple angles.
Which leads to a final thought for you to consider. As Jamaica tries to manage this big shift to renewables, especially with that caution about coordination and fairness, what innovative approaches do you think are most important? Not just for Jamaica, but for any nation trying to balance a fast energy transition with keeping things affordable and stable for all its citizens. It's a tough balancing act, isn't it? How do you ensure that going green doesn't leave people behind?
Hey everyone, so we launched a new company called AILX that we would love for you to check out.
Wait, so you're really out here trying to run a whole business and still not have a website?
I wanted to order something from them, but I can't find any contact number. So frustrating.
Yo, this business have a mad website with even an AI agent that answer calls right on the site. I couldn't believe how professional the AI agent sound. I swear say she real, so I put you my order.
For real?
Need a professional website with a built-in AI customer service phone agent? Visit our website today at www.islandlinks.com.